Let's do this. Next up, we have Arcana by Xtrullor. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and my objective here is to explain things in a way so that you don't have to be one to understand what is happening here musically. If you like the sound of that, make sure you're following the channel, subscribe to the channel, whatever term you want to use, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, consider becoming a member for one of those subscription-paid membership things, support the channel even further with that, no obligation at all, however. Two disclaimers. Number one, this is my first time hearing this track ever, so I will be pausing a lot as I will be pointing things out as I hear them. And number two, this is happening live on stream on a single take. So whatever happens, I might stumble upon my words, that kind of thing. So with that being said, let's check it out. Arcana by Xtrullor. This one I believe is featured in Geometry Dash. Let's go. Sound of fire to start, very lovely. Okay, we start with a very distant, almost faded away piano and another synth. There was another synth in there that was kind of a little bit higher than the piano, giving us what could be our motif. The smallest version of our musical idea from which everything else comes from. The test command is useless, by the way. And no, this is a half stream. Plasma, welcome today. So yes, we have what could be our motif. There was a very lovely melody over there. So, yeah, the test command is there to just test that the bot is alive. So, yeah. Alright, so yeah, let's see where this goes. Okay, this went a place I was not expecting it to go. Orchestral. We got a violin line. We got orchestral percussion because the bass that we heard was not an EDM bass. That was an orchestral bass. That was an orchestral bass right there. That was pretty good. And we have our violins going up and down, giving us an extended introduction, probably? Let's see where it goes. We also have brass on the right side. So yeah, this is also panned the way that an orchestra would look like. So that means Xtrullor knows orchestration. Okay, let's go through the concepts, right? So first we have panning. Oh, keep caps lock was on. So we have panning, which is the concept of prioritizing one ear over the other. We live in a world where stereo is our standard, which means left speaker and right speaker. And we have, you here, all happy, deformed, bald, therefore evil. And panning just means the track is going to sound in one ear over another. How does this happen? How does this happen? In the mixing process, you just say to the software, hey, play the other ear quieter. And that's it. So, when we have this with panning, and on top of that, we are also using a proper orchestral layout. So, when it comes to the study of orchestration, it's the idea of picking the right instrument for the right reasons, right? The right sound, the right emotional response. But an interesting thing that is going on over here is that Xtrullor has deliberately panned the instruments the way that they would sound in an orchestra. So what does an orchestra layout look like? How does it look like when you have an orchestra? So first, you will have the director in his podium over here. And he's going to have his little stand with his sheet music, which, by the way, if you are a conductor, so a director or conductor, those two terms can be interchangeable. If you are a conductor, you need to be a certain flavor of insane. Because the conductor knows every single note that is going on at every time during a piece. Being a conductor is a very, very tricky job because you have to become a human metronome for the entire orchestra. not only do you keep the time, but you also have to cue in the instruments, give them the instructions and everything. It's a very, very difficult job to have. So, after that, we have, of course, the orchestra itself. We start with the string orchestra, which is going to be one section of number 1 of violins, which a section of violins can be anywhere between 2 and 16, depending on the size of the orchestra. Some can go as high as 20, something like that. Then we have a second section of violins over here. We have violin number 2, which is also going to be the same size as violin number 1. Then we will have a viola section over on this side, which that one could be anywhere between 1, 2, or sometimes 14. Usually it's going to be smaller than the violin section because the instruments are bigger and can be louder, so you don't need as many to get the same sound. Then you will have the cellos on this side over here. Let me move this picture a little bit. You will have the cellos over here, and then behind, and the cellos are going to be even less. So in an orchestra, for example, the default I use for my sound libraries, it's 12 first violins, 12 second violins, 10 violas, 8 cellos, and 6 double basses. And the double basses are here behind the cellos. So we have that. This is called a string orchestra. This alone can be up to 100 people already. After that, so let's divide this over here. So we have our string orchestra over here. Then we have the woodwind section sitting in front of the director. You can have flutes, which sometimes, usually it's going to be 2 flutes. So flute 1. Are they left side or right side? Orchestra. I always forget which side they are on. So yeah, we can see over here the orchestra. Yeah, left side. Good, good. I'm not that senile yet. So you will have flute 1 and 2. Then you will have oboes sitting next to them. Oboes 1 and 2. Then behind them you will have the clarinets 1 through 2. Then the bassoons, BSN, bassoons 1 and 2. And then behind them you might have French horns. Which is a middle ground between brass and woodwind. And this alone, as you can see already over here in this picture, it can already take quite a bit of space. Then you have the brass, which is usually going to be 2 trumpets. So trumpets 1 and 2. Trombones 1 and 2. And maybe, and 1 tuba. And this is going to be your brass section. And then you will have percussion on this side. Percussion on this side that can have a timpani, a big bass, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you can have a harp back over here. Maybe. I can't write. Then solo instruments would go here right next to the director. And here you have the layout of an orchestra. Why did I spend so much time saying this? Because the way the instruments are sounding in Arcana are accurate to this diagram over here. The violins are on the left side. The violas are sounding on the right side, just a little bit forward, not entirely to the right. The brass is sounding off to the right side, just like they would on a real orchestra. So let's see how this goes. And on top of that, we have another. And we have these vocals that are kind of filtered away. They are put through. I think it's I don't remember the name of this effect, but it makes them sound kind of like ethereal. A little bit, having a somewhat similar motif to what we heard in the original bit in the piano. So very nice that we are hearing, and the violins are playing something similar as well. So that initial piano motif turned out to be an actual motif that we are using and not just some random notes. Let's see where this goes. bring back the piano. Vocals. Developing that motif. And right now what the piano is doing is what I like to call the flying melody. Why the piano knocked the vocals? Because the vocals are put in a certain effect so that they sound like they are further away. So they don't sound like they're above us, they sound like they are off in the back. The piano itself is doing a flying melody. This is a colloquial term that I use. Colloquial just means there is no official academic term for this. I just use it. I just use this to illustrate my point. And what is a flying melody? You have a busy lower section, so maybe a bass line, a drum line going super crazy down there, and then up above, you have a melody slower than everything else, simpler than everything else, that kind of just feels like it's flying off, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, we got that going over here, plus the vocals. The violins are still going pretty insane with what I think could be an ostinato. Let me hear a bit more. Oh, the piano's getting louder. A moment where we let everything, not really going off the run, we're just taking everything away. We're reducing the size of everything, and we're just letting now, kind of like a reset. So, yeah, this coming orchestra, the chat is gamble. Oh yeah, because the bot tricks lets you gamble your points that you get for watching. That's it. That's why people that's why there's gamble talk on the chat. Because Botrix gives you points for watching, and one of the things you can do with those points is gamble in a way. They're free points. So, yeah. Yeah. People choose to gamble them away even though they always lose. Pauls, welcome today. How you doing? Yep, there you go. I'm addressing it now. There you go. Alright, let's see where this goes. Because we had everything slowed down. The violins are now doing a way slower line, giving us what is 100% a change of section. So in music you have form, which in more colloquial terms is just a structure. And a structure of the music is divided in sections. And right now we had the first bit, kind of the first full minute, was an intro with that quick piano. And then we went off to section A, giving us all those really cool melodies with the violins going absolutely insane, the trombones being more in the back and everything. And now we've entered section B. Now, when it comes to changing sections, you want the second section to be contrasting, but nothing too new, nothing completely unrelated, right? Because once again, when it comes to music, you want to have a careful balance between keeping things familiar and bringing new things to the listener. Keeping things too familiar for too long, you risk the listener getting bored, tuning out. Too many new things too fast, you risk overwhelming the listener, they tune out. So, how have we kept things familiar from A to B? Well, for one, the brass, so the trombones and the tubas, are playing the same line that they were playing throughout the entirety of A. They played the same line in the transition. We kept the piano with a similar, absolutely similar line, and we kept playing with the violins. They slowed down, but overall the violins are staying more or less similar. So let's see where this goes. Ooh, very nice chimes. And now, as another contrasting element, we are bringing a few more electronic elements to section B. So section A was pretty much entirely orchestral. And now section B is actually bringing some of the more electronic elements. I like this. Let's see. And that was a good drop. And in this case, we went off the ramp by doing something very different. Going off the ramp, of course, another colloquial term, which is you want a transition, You want a good transition, that middle moment where you want the audience to feel lift up in the air, suspended and everything, like you just went off the ramp and now you're being at the mercy of inertia. Remove the drums, maybe the bass. But there were no drums, there was no bass. So what did he do? What did Xtrullor do here? Removed the elements one by one in quick succession. So we removed the piano, we removed the violins, we removed the brass, and stayed only with a remnant, an echo of that synth that we had that had come in to interrupt the orchestral stuff, and now we're back to orchestral. So I would say this is good, still part of B. Yeah, this is still part of B. It's a second half of B, mainly because the violin is roughly staying similar. It's still slower, but the overall motif of the violin is pretty much the same. We just put more percussion on this. Oh, really good moment of just pause there. Also, now, instead of using the piano, we're using the vocals, the same voices that we had. And, more importantly, we are doing a variation of the motif that we heard in the very few seconds. Like, we are still using the same motifs. So, Xtrullor is like a proper composer. We were to put like this one got an academic. It's like an academic levels of composition, because this is not something that you can that easily figure out on your own. Not this type of in-depth knowledge without picking up, like, you know, study of orchestration and, you know, the whole tonal harmony books, and figuring out, and I don't know, like the whatever books there were on Counterpoint that have these things about motifs and melodies and all that kind of stuff. So Xtrullor has definitely gotten a decent amount of studies put into this kind of music, because orchestral music is still tricky to make, and getting it right, getting it to sound just right, is very tricky to make. And Xtrullor has achieved a very, very good balance here between electronic and orchestral music, and more importantly, I think he has inverted the motif. So when it comes to melody, we have inversion. So again, in music is composed by three main elements: melody, harmony, and rhythm. Right now we're talking about melody. In melody, the motif, you can develop it by inverting it. That's one of the ways that you can invert it, that you can develop a motif. What is inversion? Inversion is that you have a motif in a certain shape, you take that motif and you flip it upside down. And that's it. That's an inverted motif, basically. You can have other alterations to motifs, but a direct inversion is just going to be you flipping the motif upside down, and that's it. And that's all you need. So we are doing that with now the vocals that were in the background before, now they're in the foreground. So it's pretty nice to see that we kind of had a bit of foreshadowing in section A that comes into effect in section B. So that's a pretty neat element to add over there, like teasing these things that will come into play later on. That is clever. That is clever stuff. Let's see. And another thing that is happening, the brass, the trombones, the tubas, there are no trumpets over here, those are doing a doubling. They are doing doubling. So doubling is a concept in orchestration that is when you take more than one instrument playing the same overall musical idea. And right now we are seeing the brass, so the trombones and the tuba, being mainly two roles right now. Number one, they are doing something extremely common ever since the movie Inception, with what's his face, Hans Zimmer, bringing the boom into film music. Everyone does it because they just realized how powerful it is. So the brass is filling up that role of just going boom, and then once they're done with that, they double the melody. So they start with that initial hit and then continue the melody with the melody. They're playing the same notes as the melody that we're hearing from the voices, except that just made it sound like I'm schizophrenic from the vocals, but in their own respective octaves, giving us this sense of scale. Because now that we have instruments on the lower end and on the higher end, you are filling more space in the spectrum of sound. And with that, it's just going to sound bigger now, which is what we're getting right now, exactly with that kind of thing. So, yeah. Back comes the piano. Okay, another break. This sounds like a break moment. Let's see. I like this. This is nice. This is really, really nice. I like it. So I think this could be an intermission kind of thing. I don't know. Megumi, welcome today. How you doing? So let's see. Try refreshing, Nico. Let's see. Yep, that was just one. That was one big drop. That was an extended drop. We made sure to fill up a bunch of that space and build up that desire for the drop even more, even more, even more. That is fairly unusual from what I've seen so far in electronic music. Having a composer extend the build-up for the drop without actually increasing the tension or bringing the scales up or anything, just keeping that, just that line steady, steady, steady now kind of thing. So, interesting. Let's see. Oh, we have another melody here. What year did this come out of? 7 years ago. So yeah, this at least this is not inspired by Dune. But yeah, because the Dune soundtrack has such an iconic line that it had a similar impact in the way that Hans Zimmer's bombs have nowadays. But yeah, we are bringing this other variation. So this is basically, we're not really going back to A or B. We just went over to C. So this is also a fairly unusual structure when it comes to music. We didn't go back to A, so it can't be a rondo. And yeah, we're just progressing through. We're just progressing through. We are keeping similar elements from our motif. Yeah, we're just not doing any straight recapitulation, which it's working. I personally would have probably made this a rondo. I think this could have been a rondo, and it would have been awesome. Because you bring back the stuff from A, and then you bring this. That would have been a very strong moment. Anyway, let's see where this goes. I just realized there has yet to be any woodwinds. This is entirely string orchestra and brass. And the piano, and the synth, and the orchestral, and like the bass and the percussion. But there's no woodwinds, there's no flutes, there's no oboes, there's no bassoons, there's no clarinets. Everything else left entirely out, which, it's fine. When it comes to orchestration, you pick what instruments you want to put. And that's it. So yeah, we have another contrasting element, which is now the brass is actually taking control of the melody. The brass and the violins are doing the melody, which is something they were not doing in the first two sections. Excuse me. So there you go. We're introducing more synths now, more samples. Alright, let's see how you're gonna end this. very good move over there. Taking the violins and turning them up even higher, you increase more tension that way. It's such a simple, easy thing to do. It's, yeah. And... oh, you don't break it back down, you just let it fade. And you bring back... oh, you ended it with... okay, so we ended with that high note. We do one last hit, and then we just let the echoes fade away. And we go back to that initial sample of, like, quasi-fire or something that was just there. Man, that was really cool. That was really cool. There you have it. That was Arcana by Xtrullor. That was a trip, man. That was a trip. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a Layman-Friendly analysis. No, this was not a fade-out. This is a fade... this is just echo. This is just the reverb doing its thing. It's a fade-out. I will redo the outro. It's a fade-out if they were still playing. If they were to still be playing... and they were to slowly start turning down the volume knob. In this case, it's just, imagine they are in a very big auditorium or even in a canyon or something like that, and they play the note, and now it's just a matter of the echo fading away. Eventually, energy dissipates, because that's just how energy is. So this does not count as a fade out in the least, because it's just echo. It's just echo. It's just the reverb bleeding away. So... yeah, so yeah, there you go. Once again, everybody, this has been the Basterd's LFA. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and my objective here has been to explain things in a way so that you don't have to be one to understand what's happened here musically. If you're watching this in video archive, thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, turn on notifications so that good stuff. Consider becoming one of them paid memberships. Support the channel even further than with that. If you want to listen to this without me interrupting every 3 seconds, I will be linking it down below. If you want to request a song and you're not on the live stream, go to the Discord. It is linked down below. The LFA requests channel. Go and follow the instructions on the pinned comments there. And that's that. If you want to catch these streams live when they happen, linked in the description is the Twitch channel and the Discord server. They both have the stream starting schedule times in your local time zones. So we start at 6 p.m. Central European time, usually Monday through Friday, and sometimes Saturday. But if you don't want to calculate what time is that, just go to the Twitch or the Discord. Stream schedule has your local time zone right there. And yeah, with that, that's that. Arcana by Xtrullor. That was actually really, really cool. That was really, really cool. But yeah, let's move on.